you get that drink.
Welcome back to the Queen's Jinx channel. I appreciate everybody coming back to spend a little bit of time with us today. Today's going to be an interesting video because it's going to be made for pretty much everyone. It's going to be made for people who are just wanting to know or just curious what Americans or what teams are owned by Americans. You may be looking for a team because, you know, the World Cup qualifying is going on right now and you might be interested in finding a team. So maybe you're going to look for finding a team that you gravitate toward that's owned by an American, or maybe you're just trying to learn something new. And honestly, some of these clubs I actually didn't even realize were owned by Americans, and I pretty much live and breathe soccer. So, you know, that said, before we get into today's list, two quick notes. First of all, once we hit 100 subscribers, we are doing a Claudio Reyna card giveaway, and all you have to do to be eligible for that prize is just simply be a subscriber, and we will pick someone at random to win that prize. So if you're interested in anything that the videos we do, or if you're interested in winning the card, make sure you hit subscribe. And two, I want to just have a little bit of a caveat. Any of the teams that we're doing today, of the 10 teams, we are not going to be doing any Premier League teams. And that's simply because I feel like Premier League teams are just, the information is so out there and I don't want to oversaturate that. So the teams we're going to be doing are going to be the championship level and below. So these are going to be some teams that, you know, you're not going to be called a bandwagon fan if you want to be a fan of right now. So we'll get right into the list. Starting at number 1. We have Barnsley Football Club. Barnsley play in the Championship, which is the league below the Premier League. And if you're just a casual fan, you may know them as the team that Daryl DK got loaned out to last year, where he did quite well for them. And you know, right now they're not doing too hot, but still they are in the second, you know, league in England, so they are still they're in a respected league. They are owned by multiple people, and 3 of them are Americans. And this is one of the teams that I could not find the percentage that particular American owns. So we're just going to hit on all 3 of the owners. Our first owner, his name is Chen Li. If I'm mispronouncing that, I am sorry. He's a Chinese-American entrepreneur. He's the capital owner of 6 clubs throughout Europe, actually, and he's maybe best known for being the former owner of Nice in France. He also has an eye for hotel investing, so he has a pretty big hand in that. And our second American owner for Barnsley is a guy by the name of Paul Conway. I could not find too much on Paul other than the fact that he is wanting to buy a team in Scotland, and he wants to basically fund it to the point where they take down the Glasgow Rangers or Celtic in Scotland. Because if you know anything about Scottish football, they are the top 2 powerhouses in Scotland, and they've pretty much won the league every year that I can remember since I've been born. And our third American owner of Barnsley is a guy that a lot of Americans are going to know. He's famous for being the main guy in Moneyball with the Athletics of Major League Baseball, and that is Billy Beane. After baseball, he got himself deep into the world of soccer. He claims Arsene Wenger, who is the old manager of Arsenal, to be his idol, and he developed a friendship with him and Stan Kroenke, who is also the owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Manchester United Football Club in the Premier League. And after discussions with these two, he decided to go down his own road of ownership. Although I don't think he has a big ownership in the group, but from the information I saw, he still is one of the 3 owners. So we'll go on to number 2, which is also a Championship League club, and that is Coventry City. And they are owned by Joy Sipela, who is a Finnish American who made her money being an investor in multiple sectors. She took over the club in 2007, and she hasn't really had much success with the club. They've alternated between the 2nd and 3rd tier leagues in England, and from all research purposes, she doesn't seem to be very held in high regard by the owners, as she's been looking to relocation and actually at one point moved the team about 40 miles north of Coventry itself. But they are having success this year, and if they keep up what they're doing right now, they will be in the Premier League at this point next year. So our third club might be the most well-known team on the list, and the owner might be the most well-known owner on the list, and that is Fulham Football Club in London. And the owner is Shad Khan, who has and trust me, this team has always had connections with Americans, and it got even more Americanized when he took over the club back in 2013. He's a Pakistani American. You know, the team has had up and down. It's been a roller coaster since he's taken over. They've been in the Premier League several times, and they've also been demoted from the Premier League several times. And this particular year, they are absolutely lighting it up. So I fully expect them to be back in the Premier League next year. They currently have 2 American starters on the team and several youth players that are American. But Colin, you may also know him as the Jacksonville Jaguars owner, and he's also part owner with his son of All Elite Wrestling, if you're into the wrestling world. So, that said, if you are looking for a team with deep American roots and ownership and in London, this might be your team. So number 4 on the list, we're going to be staying in the championship, and we're going to go with Millwall. And Millwall is owned by John Barrelson and Richard Smith. And John is the founder of Chestnut Hills Ventures and seems to have a lot of ties with in the medical field with investments. I could not find much on Richard, anything at all, to be honest with you. But they are from Boston, if that means anything to you from what I found. And Millwall is typically known as the team that has a rough history with hooliganism, and they are in South London. But for all intents and purposes, that has been weeded out a little bit. But they are known as the rough squad of London. And hey, if you're into someone who, if you're into a team that wants that type of reputation, this might be the team for you. So number 5 is our last team in the championship, which is 68% American owned, and that's Swansea City. And it's owned by Stephen Kaplan and Jason Levian. Stephen did not have much available online about his career. However, I did find he was the co-founder of Oak Tree Capital Management, and in 2012 bought a minority stake in NBA Memphis Grizzlies. Jason, on the other hand, was a lawyer turned sports agency owner, which they have been... his clients have ranged several big names in the NBA, and he's also a former CEO of the Memphis Grizzlies, which I have to assume is where Stephen and Jason's friendship developed. And in 2011, Jason also was part of the ownership group that purchased the Philadelphia 76ers, and he's also the majority share owner in the DC United Football Club of MLS. So we're going to go on to League One, which is the league below the championship, which is Ipswich Town. And they are owned by not a person per se, but a company, and that's Game Changer 20, which is an American company. And from doing my research online about this company, I found that the members of this group include 3 board members of the USL Phoenix Rising Club, which has had a lot of success since they've become a club a few years back. And they've even signed Drogba maybe 3-4 years ago, in which he spent a couple of seasons in Phoenix. And if you want to see him spend, you may also want to look into this club because he is from the area and he actually sponsors this year's current kit. So at number 7, we have Plymouth Argyle. And this is about as far west, a West Football League team as you can get in England. And they are owned by American Simon Hallett. Simon, from what I found, seems to be someone who has been in the investment world for quite a long time. It's too early to tell really if he's going to have a successful run as the ownership, as he took them over in 2019. But they are standing pretty good in the standings this year. So it does look like they're on the right track. However, I don't know how the fans feel about him specifically. But if you're into a team that does not have your traditional red or white colors, they are green, and they have probably one of the best crests in English football, in my opinion. So you may want to look into this if you're into something like that. So number 8, we have Portsmouth Football Club. Portsmouth is a former giant, and in 2017 they were taken over by an American by the name of Michael Eisner. You may not know that name, but trust me, you definitely know what he's done. Eisner was COO of Paramount, and during the time that he was the COO, they produced films such as Grease, Star Trek, Footloose, as well as so much more. In 1984, he took over what us Americans would probably best know him as the CEO and chairman of Disney. And although we could be here all day talking about what he did and accomplished being in those roles at Disney, we can just say it was a success. After his time in Disney, he had his own talk show on CNBC for a little while, and then he eventually took over Portsmouth. Although they're currently in League One, they do have plans for an absolute beautiful stadium, which I will put on the screen right now. So if you're into a sleeping giant, former giant team that could potentially make a run again, and honestly looks like they're going to have a beautiful home to play in, this might be a team that you want to look into. So at number 9, and this one came as a surprise for me, because I've been a fan of this team for quite a while, and that's the Wycombe Wanderers. They are 75% owned by an American, and the other 25%, well, honestly, he's their only true owner. The other 25% is owned by the Supporters Trust, which the only thing I can compare that to, if you're an American watching this, would be the Green Bay Packers, how they're fan-owned. So the American that owns them took over a few years back. His name is Rob Cooing, and I could be saying that wrong as well. He's a New Orleans businessman who is most known for losing the mayor race after the elections, after the terrible event Hurricane Katrina took place. He's also known to be he's also was the owner of the AAA baseball team in the area known as New Orleans Zephyrs, who they since changed their name to the Baby Cakes, I believe, and I'm not entirely sure if they're even still a team right now. But he also owned a local footy team in New Orleans called the New Orleans Storm, which did not last very long and they quickly folded. Wycombe is a very likable club, and to be honest with you, they've had a lot of success in the past few years. They're very well ran too. They have a very likable manager, and they have a very likable player right now by the name of Akinkinwa, who is known as the strongest player in football. Yeah, if you're looking for a team, this is a good team to start with. They're just very likable, and to be honest with you, they have a really cool, quirky stadium as well. So we're going to close out this video going into number 10, who is the only League 2 team on my list, which is the lowest league of league football in England. And they just got to that league just this past season. They're Sutton United, and they are owned by a guy by the name of Gary Otto. I could not find a percentage of ownership that he owns in this club, but for informational purposes, via Sutton's website, they state that they have no majority. They say that they have no majority owner, but rather 3 owners that have a significant stake in the club. One of them being South African American by the name of Gary Otto. I could not find too much on this guy, and in fact, what I did find, I could not confirm that this is actually him. But if this is him, I did find that he made his money through real estate. And outside of that, that is all I unfortunately have on Gary. So there you have it. There is 10 American-owned teams in English football that do not involve the Premier League. And quite frankly, these are also the only 10 American-owned teams below the Premier League that are in league football right now. So that said, if you did enjoy this video, drop a like because there are plenty of American-owned teams elsewhere, including Giants Marseille in France. So if you're interested in knowing what other Americans own teams throughout Europe, let me know, and I can do another video like this. This was just specifically for England because this is the league that I watch the most. So that said, please drop a like, please subscribe, please comment on the video if you're a fan of one of these teams, and tell me what you think of the owner. That said, I hope everybody has a wonderful, amazing day, having a wonderful, amazing week, and everybody stay safe out there. Thanks, guys.